Now, Gene Simmons on Paul Stanley and Kiss.
So you were in a couple of bands with Paul Stanley, or maybe just different incarnations of Kiss as you were kind of making your way through music when you were younger. It's obvious that his friendship means a lot to you.
Well, you know, it's difficult enough to get along with anybody else. Friendships, marriages, they're all fraught with dysfunction because the people who you care about wind up ultimately and invariably disappointing you. Your best friend doesn't stay your best friend. It's really tough to find friends, much less business partners, that stand the test of time.
Right.
So when I first met Paul, who I've been with now for 35 years, even more, 36, he thought I was full of myself, correctly so. When I first met him, somebody introduced us as, here's a guy who writes songs also. And in my delusional state, I started writing my songs on my own. Nobody taught me how to play guitar. I just sort of figured it out. And in my delusional, full of myself sense, I didn't even for a second consider that any other human being wrote songs. Somehow the Beatles and the Stones and all that, they were different. But real people walked on the face of the earth, didn't really write songs. And so when I first met Paul, somebody said, here's Paul, he writes songs too. And I didn't mean it to come out that way, but I sort of went, oh, really? Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
And he must have thought I was the biggest asshole who walked, oh, really? Says the king. So he immediately and instinctively thought I was full of myself. He's correct on that.
I was going to say, really?
No, I really, yeah. Who does he think? You know, people have always thought that about me. Who does that guy think he is? Well, actually, it's profound. Who do you think you are?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
If you really think you're all that in the patois of the street, then you are. You know, part of that is... So anyway, I digress.
No, you don't, though, because you're sparking me on something that I don't want to go away from it, but it's just kind of, you are obviously of the belief that you believe what you are, you act who you are, and what you put out there is what comes back to you.
Oh, you don't know the half of it.
Is that true?
I'm delusional about myself.
But you wouldn't be who you were if you weren't.
That's
if you didn't
true.
Believe
and therein
that's
lies, that's right, therein lies the sense of self and the self-motivation and the ambition and all that, that invariably and ultimately when somebody becomes something, whether you're a political, religious, or business person or anybody else, you're really not selling the thing that you're selling. It's really yourself that you're selling. Two different vacuum cleaner salesmen with the same vacuum cleaner. One guy's going to sell it, the other one's not. And it's not the vacuum cleaner, it's the salesman. And so I've always been delusional about my looks. I know logically I'm not the best looking guy in the world, but you can't convince me of that.
So tell me about Kiss, the early stages when you and Paul were playing together, when it was Wicked Lester. Was it more of an experiment? And I can't imagine with your, you being known for your hard rock and penning these heavy rock songs. Well, you guys were a folk band, kind of, weren't you, initially?
Yes, because at the core of it, Paul and I both started as songwriters. Even before the bands, it was this kind of connection to ABA format, verse, chorus, verse. And the original songs weren't heavy at all. They were Beatlesque and kind of folky, like the Byrds, that kind of stuff. That
Harmonies and things?
Yeah. When we decided to form Wicked Lester, there was no rhyme or reason to it. It's just like, let's get a few guys together and kind of become the New York Doobie Brothers, just one of everything. It didn't matter. Let's just write songs. But we got a record deal right away with Epic Records. I mean, we didn't play anywhere. It was immediate. And then there was a sort of a come to Jesus moment, although I don't necessarily come to Jesus.
It's a term.
It's a term. And Paul and I looked at each other and just kind of went, this is not really what we want to do. So they say a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Well, we decided that it wasn't even a bird in the hand, that there was something here that we hadn't fleshed out yet. So we literally fired everybody else. And they said, you can't fire us. We had to deal with Epic Records.
I was going to say, how can you do that?
Yeah, they said, you can't fire us. Okay, then we're leaving the band.
That's right.
Bird by it. So, and then
You found Peter and Ace, didn't you?
we decided to put together the band we never saw on stage. What's missing from these groups on stage? It was showmanship. It was identity. It was uniqueness. You didn't have to be original, but when you saw and or heard this band, I wouldn't want you to be able to connect it to any other band out there.
Right.
How do you make yourself unique? Make 4 kids from a KISS mother, make them all connected, and whatever it is that one is going to wear, each one's going to have to be unique and yet different, and yet they should all feel like they came from the same mother, if you see what I mean.
Yes, yes.
And some of it had to do with the Beatles. When we first saw the Beatles, they just all looked like they came from the same Beatle mother. Nobody was fat, nobody was old, they were about the same size, same haircuts.
Yeah.
So they looked like it was the same family. And that was the sense of it. And KISS was designed to be the Beatles on steroids.
I like it.
Louder, bigger, badder, with bigger heels and all that.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that those heels and all that gear you guys wore weighed, what, like 50 pounds that you had to...
My outfits, I was the stupid one in the band because my outfits tended to be very, very heavy. Paul was the smart one. He would just go shirtless and play guitar. And, of course, jump way up in the air on 8-inch platform heels. But mine tended to be studs and leather and, you know, and...
Dragon boots and...
Dragon boots and areas with sufficient room to house my manhood.
That's right.
With spikes. And see the little pregnant pause there for you kids out there so you understand what I just talked about. Oh, that's what he meant.
We both did that. So now the concept was amazing, but unfortunately, your record company was at Casablanca Records that you started with. You know, your first 3 albums didn't do that great, and you guys almost all put each other out of business before Kiss Alive.
The first 3 records came out, and we didn't do single and do girl stuff.
Right.
Well, I love you, and no, I don't love you, okay? I love your sister and your mommy, too. How do you like them lyrics? And we just sang the stuff that guys understood about. The real lyric, the real honest-to-God, true lyric. You're a strutter, you know. You wanted nothing to lose, baby. Thought about the back door. I didn't care anyway. And
rock
all
and
the
roll
real
all night.
party
yeah, every day.
The real guy, truthful lyrics. Not, you know, all those lyrics that you girls have heard about. How can I live without you? Actually, very easily. All those you've heard of, don't ever believe them.
Male anthem or kind of fist
They
in
were
the air.
male anthems,
Yeah.
and wherever there are males, the girls came too. You'll
Sure.
never have a career without image and vibe. A star is bigger than what they do. A star, I'll say that again, knucklehead. Star is bigger than that's what makes you a star. So your heart pounds because you want to see, the lights go out, you want to see them and go, oh, it's Gene Simmons or whoever. It's there before you hear the music. Without that pounding of the heart, you're nobody. You're a Holiday Inn karaoke singer. I've got a #1 song. Okay, you're in Wang Chung. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. You're done. Without the image, you're nobody.
More with the demon himself from KISS in just a moment. P.S. Did you know Gene Simmons actually taught 6th grade in New York's Spanish Harlem? It's true. One of his favorite teaching aids was using a Spider-Man comic book. And now you know. Private Sessions will be right back in just a moment.
Run.